The Mose Knows podcast, hosted by Cory Mose, greatly appreciates you for tuning into this week's episode. Enjoy.
Good evening, beautiful people. It's your boy, Cory Mose, in the building, here for another episode of Mose Knows. Well, I guess it's not really like an episode. It's more like a combo or like a segment because it's not a full show. We're only going to talk about one thing only, but I won't have my guy Dion Parker with me today, as you can tell. He's actually overseas, chilling with family in Panama. Yeah, that's right. I know he looks fully black, but looks can be deceiving. So he actually has some Panamanian in him, in his blood. So yeah, I love that for him. But he's over there enjoying vacation with his family. But I do want to talk about, of course, the biggest game of the weekend. Everyone's been talking about it. A lot of conversations on national media about this game. And I think all eyes will be on this broadcast come Saturday. And of course, I'm talking about Oregon versus Ohio State. I'm joking. Nah, Red River Rivalry. Even though some people are pissed off, they want me to call it Red River Shootout. I'm just going to call it for what it's named after, and it's the Red River Rivalry right now. I hated the Showdown. I hated that name, and I don't really have any feelings towards Shootout. Now, I will say, with the climate we're in, let's be, mindful about the people that have suffered from different shootings. Let's be real here. I get it. You want to keep tradition. You want to keep the name Shootout, but there's a reason why they did change it. And I think the reasoning is fair. And so, yes, the Red River Rivalry is happening this Saturday. Texas versus OU. OU is coming off a win in this rivalry last year, going down the field with 30 seconds left to play. Dylan Gabriel just carved his way through the Texas defense and scored a game-winning touchdown to Nick Anderson, who, by the way, both of those players will not be playing. In fact, every single person on the field for OU during that last drive will not be playing in this year's game. So a completely different squad for Oklahoma, and that's why there's a lot of questions surrounding what will this game look like once it gets kicked off on Saturday. What we do know right now, though, is Quinn Ewers is playing. Yeah, QB1 is back. Head of the Snake is back. Quintavious, some people call him Quincent Ewers. Some people call him that. But as we all know, his government name, Quinn Ewers, is back under center for the Longhorns. But I feel like another injury that no one really talked about while he was out because the secondary was playing so well was Derek Williams Jr. He's a guy that is a game changer in that secondary. He's also expected to play on Saturday. He'll make his return to the field after a couple weeks with an injury. And I think that's a big piece that no one's really talking about because everyone's honing in on Quinn as they should. I get it. He's QB1, but that secondary has already been playing great. Then you add a great talent like Derek Williams as well, get some more reps under his belt. Oh, man, I don't know where the true freshman, Michael Hawkins Jr. for OU is going to go with the football. So we're going to be talking to actually my guy, TJ Eckert. He is a sports director out in Tulsa, Oklahoma. He covers the Sooners, and he actually played quarterback in college for Central Oklahoma. He was also on the golf team, so I'm going to joke with him about that. He's going to come on this show to speak about what's happening in that Oklahoma locker room. What do they see that they can carve up Texas if they can at all? What are the thought processes around last year's game and how they can make it maybe roll over into this year's contest? Going to ask him all those questions. And, of course, that wide receiver room for Oklahoma, completely different than what you see at Texas. They are depleted over there. Their starting 5 wide receivers are not playing on Saturday. And so you're going to see a familiar face if you're a Texas fan, and Brennan Thompson. He is going to have some significant minutes on Saturday, and the former Longhorn will go against his former team, and will be on the field a lot. And so I can't wait to see that matchup. But I just want to, I guess you could say, formulate this conversation around 3 different storylines that I'm looking out for on Saturday. I think the first one, I do want to hone in on red zone, right? I think the red zone efficiency is something that Texas has done really well on this year. They have scored touchdowns, not just scored points, but they've scored touchdowns on 24 of the 27 opportunities they've had in the red area. Funny enough, they were one of the worst in the nation last year, and especially in the Red River Rivalry last year. Sark mentioned it in his opening statement on Monday, but he talked about how last year in this game, Texas had 3 opportunities in the red area, and they only came away with 3 points. And so that is a huge topic of conversation in that locker room this week. And it has been throughout the whole season, it feels like, because they've been so successful. I mean, when you have different weapons on the goal line in that red area, that's why you go out and get an Isaiah Bond. That's why you go out and get a Matthew Golden. That's why, honestly, I thought that's why you go get a Amari Nyblack so he can be an option in the red area from Alabama. But instead, Gunnar Helm has proven he is a great red zone threat. And always, a guy that's been surprising a lot of people is Jared Gibson, a.k.a. Baby Rhino, a true freshman running back. He's been able to get into the end zone from the red area. He's become kind of like the goal line back for this Texas offense. So they have plenty of options, right, on the goal line in the red area, and they've been able to utilize it. Quinn and Arts has been able to get everything out of that wide receiver core, tight end room, running back room, and an offensive line. They've been on the same page in the red area this year. The question is, will it stay the same against Oklahoma? And as we know, that Oklahoma defense is solid. I mean, let's not cap. Let's be real. They are a good defensive squad. Now, the problem is offensively, can they put points on the board? But defensively, they create a lot of turnovers, and they don't have to rush more than 4 to get to the quarterback. And that's always a scary sight for anybody like Brent Venables, who is a mastermind on the defensive end to create pressures and different blitz packages. And so with Quinn coming off that oblique strain, I'm interested to see how he moves and if he's able to take a couple hits early in this one to kind of get that body going. But it'll be better if he just leaves the game unscathed, right? Not touched at all. So that'll be interesting to look at. But I do want to hone in on that red zone offense, though. I think that red zone offense will be a key to how Texas, one, starts this game, but also if they're able to score touchdowns and not have to use Auburn like they haven't had to all year long. So that's my first storyline to look out for, red zone efficiency. Can Texas be efficient in that part of the field? Second topic of conversation I feel like it would be a big storyline to look out for, especially for this Longhorn team, man. Defensively last year, you had a guy in Dylan Gabriel, came into this game, a terrific throwing threat. He throws a beautiful deep ball. That was the topic of conversation before that game last year. But at the end of the game, the conversation wasn't about his arms. It was about Dylan Gabriel's legs and the way that he was able to run over 100 yards and a touchdown on that Texas defense. And a lot of it wasn't really design runs. It was a bunch of scramble drills, look around, then take off. They realized Texas is in man coverage, so there's big running lanes to go through. And that was something that I wanted to ask the guys about this week in the press conferences on Monday, is that last year y'all got torched. If we're being honest, Texas got torched against Dylan Gabriel when it comes to his legs. And because of the lack of discipline from that front 4 on Texas's defensive line, they weren't able to have a lot of discipline and containment when it came to their pass rush lanes. And so I figured, why not ask Barron Sorrell, a guy who was on the field last year, about their pass rush lanes, and if that's been a topic of conversation in their meetings this week. And here's what he had to say.
It's being discussed a lot, obviously, and I mean, I'll take accountability for that along with some of the other guys that were here. We definitely need to do better in that aspect, and that's definitely going to be an aspect that we're focusing on throughout the week and that we'll take care of Saturday.
So clearly, it definitely has been talking about. Everyone's been discussing it. I think that is fair to say, because the guy that they're going against this year, Michael Hawkins Jr., he's a completely different animal than Dylan Gabriel is with his legs. And so, of course, that's a big topic of conversation. But I also just want to give you all a soundbite from Coach Steve Sarkisian on Thursday, something he spoke about, the difficulties of preparing for a guy that can use his legs the way Hawkins does and the challenges that it presents to the defense.
You know, I think there's a lot of layers to this, you know, because I think coverages can dictate maybe how your rush lanes go. You know, when you're playing zone coverage, sometimes you can be a little more aggressive with trying to really rush the quarterback, because the majority of the eyes of the defenders in the secondary are on the quarterback, and they can react if he does escape the pocket and you can get him on the ground. Where you have to be really careful with your rush lanes is when you're playing man coverage. Because when you're in man coverage and you get out of a rush lane and you give the quarterback somewhere to escape, when he goes to run, all of those guys in the secondary's backs are turned to the quarterback because they're guarding somebody, and now that can create, you know, longer yardage type runs. You know, the other way you can do that is to play man, try to really rush the quarterback and have a spy, where you can keep somebody's eyes on the quarterback, and when he does go to scramble, you can try to get him on the ground. And so, I think one of the keys in games like this is you have to continue to mix your looks, right? You can't just keep throwing a fastball. You got to throw a curve, you got to throw a changeup, you got to keep switching it up, or a quarterback can find that rhythm.
So you just heard Sark say it, right? You got to be able to mix your looks, especially against a true freshman quarterback who's barely thrown the ball 40 times in his career. And so if that, I don't think he's even reached 40. I think he's at like 33 or 37 right now. And so, yes, that lack of experience is going to play a factor if Coach PK on that defensive side can get him confused and make him wonder who's blitzing, who's not blitzing. Is it a 4-man? Is it a 5-man? Is it a 6-guy blitz? Oh, my goodness, where is the pressure coming from? I think if you start to speed up the clock in the true freshman quarterback of Hawkins, that's going to be beneficial for Texas. And one thing and one look that Sark did mention at the end of that soundbite, if you listen closely, he mentioned the spy. And that's something that I would definitely expect to see a lot from that Texas defense. You're going to see Anthony Hill being the guy to watch Hawkins Jr. in case he leaves the pocket. That will be his sole role. And of all guys to be the spy, Anthony Hill Jr. is the perfect man to do so. I mean, he has the speed, he has the athleticism, and of course, he has the power to bring Hawkins down. I don't think that would be a mismatch for Ant at all. And I think that would be the smart chess move to do if I'm Coach PK going against his Oklahoma offense to put Anthony Hill in that spot. And like I said, I expect to have a lot of spies in this game as Hawkins is known to use his legs, not so much for his throwing capabilities, especially since they're lacking nearly their entire first 5 wide receivers on that Oklahoma roster. So who is Hawkins going to throw the ball to? Can they create separation? Are they going to get open? I don't know. And I don't really expect them to, especially against this Texas secondary, getting a Derek Williams back into the fold. And so that's my second storyline, those pass rush lanes. Can Texas stay disciplined to not allow Hawkins to be a threat with his legs? The last thing I want to speak about before I get to my interview with TJ Eckert is special teams. Yeah. Last year, special teams played a factor. Of course, Bert Auburn kicked the field goal to get Texas up. But before that, early in the game, people forget, Texas had that block punt for a touchdown. Malik Muhammad scores. I believe Keaton Crawford. I can't remember who. I don't want to put no names out there. But someone did take their helmet off and caused an unnecessary, unsportsmanlike penalty, 15 yards. That was a crazy turn of events. But it was a huge play in the game last year. And it was a big momentum because that was after Texas threw an interception in the red area, might I say. That's when Ja'Tavion Sanders almost caught it, didn't catch it, got hit while the ball got there. Ball pops up, interception for Quinn Ewers in the red area. That's how it all went down. And, of course, defense gets a stop, gets the punt block, and then touchdown. So kind of weird turn of events and momentum swings that you can expect in a game like this. But I feel like special teams will play another factor for a different reason, though. I saw the injury report. Weirdly enough, oddly enough, Michael Kern, the freshman punter for Texas, he is on the injury report, and he's listed as questionable. So that begs the question. If Kern isn't ready to punt, who is going to step in? Of course, we asked Sark that on Thursday, and he mentioned Ian Ratliff. He is a soft. I had to do some research, bro. I'm not going to cap. I had to do some research. I don't know everything. I know the title is Mose Knows, but Mose also knows how to use Google. So I looked up Ian Ratliff. He is a sophomore punter out of Atascocita. Shout out H-Town, even though some people may not consider Atascocita H-Town. I do anyways. Shout out. But he is a 2-time All-District honoree back in high school, earned second team All-District as a kicker in 2020, and then as a punter in 2022. He was actually ranked as the number 24 punter nationally by Cole's Kicking. And so Ian Ratliff would be the guy to step in the punting duties in case Michael Kern isn't healthy enough to punt the football, which to me is a huge deal because this game is all about field possession. I guess you could say not field possession. Lord have mercy. It's all about field position. There we go. Words of heart, y'all. Words of heart. But it's all about field position. If you're able to flip the field at all, and Kern has done a really good job with punting, even though he hadn't had to punt a lot this year, he has done a good job with his opportunities, the limited opportunities that he has had. So Ian Ratliff, if he has to play, how will he fair in a big time matchup at the state fair, by the way. And in this environment where every punt matters potentially. And so first time ever getting minutes, that will be a crazy spot for Ian Ratliff to come in here and make his first career start is in the Red River Rivalry. That would be wild. That would be a story that he's going to tell his kids for sure. But the other side of things is that Kern wasn't just a punter, but as most punters are, he's also the holder for field goals. And so how much has Ian worked with Bert Auburn, worked with that special teams unit when it comes to holding, placing the ball down so that Auburn can kick it? Those minute details is something that we don't really appreciate when it works well. But man, do we kill those holders when they can't get the ball together, right? I think that's something that goes without being said about how important that position is, being the holder of the football in the field goal attempt. And if there's a new guy back there that hadn't had as much experience, that worries me. I'm not going to lie. That does worry me. If Kern can't go and Ratliff has to be the guy for, let's say, a potential game-winning field goal, do you know the nerves that are going to be running through that man's body as this is his first game playing in a Texas uniform and it's against the arch rival in Oklahoma and it's a chance to win the game and I got to hold it? First, I got to catch it. I got to catch the snap and then I got to hold it and place it down for Bert to kick it? Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot of expectations. And so that will be a storyline that I'm looking out for if Michael Kern can't play on Saturday. Like I said, he's listed as questionable on the depth chart, on the injury report, I guess I should say. And reports saying it's not that great. Like it's not for sure that he won't play, but it's not a probable. And when it's not a probable at this stage of the week, that's not a good sign. So Ian Ratliff will be the punter. And it'll be interesting to see if that plays a factor on Saturday. But those are my three storylines to look out for. Red zone efficiency for Texas. Of course, the pass rush lanes. Can that defensive line stay disciplined against a running quarterback in Michael Hawkins Jr.? And special teams. Specifically, punting for Texas. Will Michael Kern play? If he doesn't, who is Ian Ratliff? We'll find out on Saturday. You're also going to find out who TJ Eckert is. He's my guy from Oklahoma, man. Listening to our combo as he kind of broke down what's going on in Boomer Sooner land out there in Normantown. He's going to give us some inside info about how that Oklahoma locker room is looking and sounding, and also what have been the biggest storylines for them as they go into this Red River rivalry. Low-key depleted and a lot of injuries all around that roster. Okay, I'm now joined by my friend TJ Eckert. He is the KTUL sports director out there in Tulsa. First off, it's crazy how this business works because it's so small, and now you get to meet people that you wouldn't have thought you never met. And TJ is one of those guys. And the streets are saying, TJ, that you shoot 80s on the golf course. Is that true? That's just what I've heard.
I mean, listen, the streets are lying, Cory, because we try to stay in the 70s, Cory. We don't. Listen now. Listen, I don't know what streets you've been on, but they've been lying to you. I don't know. You've been getting some bad information. Let me tell you. I don't know what
That's
is.
Hilarious. I got to check my sources, huh? That's crazy.
Check
I got to check
your sources.
my sources. 70s. Yes, a former golf player back in the day, TJ. So do you go often?
I try, man. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm giving you a hard time. I try and go as much as I can.
Yeah.
The good thing about Oklahoma is the weather year round is good enough to play for the most part the entire year. So I try to get out there as much as I can. Yeah, it's fun.
That's awesome. Yeah, I just got some clubs about 6 months ago from my boss. Some hand-me-downs, but I'll take it. I'll take some free clubs.
Man, golf is such a great sport. Like, it doesn't matter how good you are, how bad you are, how old you are, how young you are. Like, you can always play it, and it's always a good time, man. So we need to play together. That'd be a lot of fun.
No, to be honest, we should honestly start scheduling something for this weekend every time we come to Dallas together, because that seems like the only time I see you. But
that's true.
It'll be a big weekend this weekend, man. I know you're heading down today. Is that true?
Yeah, heading down today. We'll do all of our live stuff on Friday, and then obviously the game on Saturday. So yeah, we're doing it a lot. We're doing a lot more this year than I think we've done in years past.
Okay, that's cool though. That's exciting. I'm glad that y'all are able to do that.
Yeah, man, it should be good. I don't know how you feel. It's the best game of the year for us, man. We love it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, let's talk about the best game of the year then, huh? Texas versus OU, coming off a win last year for the Sooners, big time last minute drive. I feel like last 30-second drive for Dylan
Right.
Gabriel and the boys went down the field, and it seemed seamless. A lot of miscommunication on Texas defense, but I just want to start here, TJ, with this conversation. I'm in the locker rooms, I'm in the press conferences here in Austin, but you're in the ones in Norman. And so what is the topic of conversation out there in Oklahoma, and where do they feel like this game's going to go?
Man, I think they feel confident right now. Last year, it felt like, and I've made this point a few times with people, it felt like they had way more motivation than Texas coming off getting blown out 49-0 the year before. The game felt even more personal than it had in previous years. And so the concern for me was like, all right, now you got that revenge, if you will. Is that motivation still there? And a lot of guys talked about like they hit on like the spread. Like the spread's not a motivator. Them being number one's not a motivator. It's simply the fact that it's the team we're playing. That's Texas. That's our motivator. And so I think they feel good. They mentioned a lot of guys talking about the bye week being good for them. I know Texas was on a bye as well, but mentioned getting healthy was good. And yeah, I think they're ready to go out there and play well, given the noise around the program has been like, man, the offense is trash. How good is that defense really? Mike Hawkins just being a true freshman, like how can he perform in a game like this? Like I think that's been the noise around the program, and I think they feel confident enough about this group to go out there and play well.
Yeah, you said a lot of things there that I want to touch on, but let's first start with, you talk about getting healthy during this bye week. A lot of guys weren't able to get fully healthy, right? You look at the injury report, it's just like, ugh. I didn't realize a lot of those guys are out, And I rewatched the game a couple of days ago and just saw all the guys making plays for OU. I'm thinking of Andre Anthony and Nick Sanders and Jalil Farouk, and I look at the injury reports, like they're all out. So it's kind of like, wow, a whole new receiving core for OU. Who do you think is going to step up? And even like a questionable guy like Deion Burks, is he going to play? Do you have any idea? Or, what's your synopsis on that?
Brent Venables has been like cautiously optimistic on Deion Burks leading up to this week. Last week he said that it's taking some time. We're playing it day by day, whatever that coach speak would be. Same thing this week in his press conference, man. It's like we're hopeful that we'll have him back, but still jury's still out on that. My guess is that he'll try to find a way and play. I don't think he'll want to miss a game like this. And they really can't afford to have him miss a game like this. They don't, like you said, they really don't have anybody else, right? Like, I don't know if you and I can go out there and suit up and play wideout. It wouldn't do him any good for me to do it. I don't know,
bro. You got some college experience in your background.
Listen, man. I was good. I was good at throwing it, not catching it. So, there is a handful of guys that I think can make plays for this Sooner offense out wide anyway. One guy that they really haven't highlighted much that is someone I think could be sneaky good in this game is a former Longhorn, Brennan Thompson. Yeah. They haven't really used him a whole bunch this year. That might be a guy to keep an eye on. And then J.J. Hester had a big catch in the Auburn game. He's a Tulsa guy from Booker T up here in Tulsa. That's another guy that I think he gained some confidence in that Auburn game and might be someone you could see utilize as well.
Yeah, I was saying, bro, I'm thinking the same thing about Brennan. I'm like, well, this is a big game for him. He didn't figure out, I bet he didn't think he would be in this spot, would have this much kind of responsibility when this week came around, when he looked at the depth chart before the season started. But now he's going to be a focal point, I feel like, in that offense this week against his former team.
Yeah,
were you talking to him this week?
Yeah, no, not really. We didn't hear from him much. We got a couple defensive guys, and that was really it. I'm trying to think if we got anybody on the offensive side. I really don't think we talked to anybody of significance anyway, like skill player wise. Taylor Tatum, freshman tailback, he's back. He missed the Auburn game. He's a stud, so that's someone. You brought up a point too, Cory, I want to make mention of. Anybody that made a big play in the Texas game last year is gone or hurt, right? I mean, Gentry Williams had a pick on the first drive of the game. He's out. Kendall Dolby, I think, was the one who jarred the ball loose on the second turnover in that game. He's out. And then all the wideouts you've mentioned already are gone too. So it's crazy to look back at that game and think, man, like none of those dudes are supposed to be playing this week.
Yeah, I think I read a stat. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I read this stat where it said all 11 guys who were on the field on that final drive aren't playing this game.
I believe it. I believe it.
Yeah, I mean
crazy, man.
that's crazy. Like the turnover for OU this year, it just seems wild and honestly unbelievable. And it sucks for Venables to not have that type of continuity in his another year under him. Were you going to say something?
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I'm just agreeing with you, man. It's crazy to think about, and especially on the O-line too. Like the O-line's been so banged up. I think they've played a different combination pretty much every week. So yeah, they've had so much turnover in the wide receiver room. And then this was supposed to be a strength for them this year, Cory, was the wideout room. They were deep, had a lot of experience, talent, and they all got banged up in the preseason. They got banged up first couple of weeks of the year, and now they're trying to do what they can with what they got.
Well, you said that you talked to numerous guys on the defensive side of the ball this week. What is the conversation with them, and what do they feel like they have strengths over this really high-powered Texas offense, even though Quinn is coming off that oblique strain?
Yeah, so Kobe McKenzie is a linebacker, and Robert Spears-Jennings is safety, the two of the guys we talked to this week. And I think they are comfortable carrying the load for this team in terms of the defense being the strength. And so that's something I think they've had to get used to early in the season, but something I think they're getting, like I said, comfortable is probably the right word. Like they understand that, in years past when Lincoln Riley was there, your offense was going to score 40 points a game. And so you didn't have to, get 5, 6, 7 stops, right? You only need to get 2. Now, I mean, they understand that we are the strength of this team. We're carrying that burden on our shoulders, and there is a confidence coming out of that unit that I don't think we've seen in Norman in a long time. And so they both those guys we talked to acknowledged how good Texas's offense is. They both acknowledged the fact that it doesn't really matter who's playing quarterback. We assume it's going to be Ewers, right? I think Sark's made that pretty clear, right?
Yeah.
But I think they acknowledge that, no matter who it is under center, that offense has been playing really well regardless who it is there. And so there's definitely a level of respect from the OU defense towards the Texas offense. And it should be, right, man? I mean, they've been explosive all season.
Yeah, y'all came up in topic of conversation this week during our press conferences. Some writers, they asked, do you have anything to say? Do you remember the Stutzman shirt and his tattoo? Does that bring any fire or any revenge factor? Of course, the boys played it off like, nah, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what shirt you're mentioning. But we do remember everything. I like how Michael Taft mentioned that a couple of times. Like, we do remember everything. It's like, okay, so you do remember the shirt. Stop lying.
Yeah, right. Oh, yeah.
But, were you able to talk to Stutzman this week at all? And what has that vibe been like?
Hadn't heard from Stutzman. I would imagine they're going to try to keep him as low key as possible leading up to the game. And then if you want to unleash him after the game, right? It's like, man, we don't need any more bulletin board material from you in the pregame, and that's probably smart. And as far as bulletin board material, since you bring it up, there wasn't really any from our end.
That's good.
Brent Venables did have a good quote. He was asked by Barry Trammell, a longtime reporter here, news reporter in Oklahoma. Has Texas's success made your job more difficult? And he said, like, Texas is not a measuring stick for our program. And the line he used was, their success doesn't define our success, and neither does their lack of success. I was like, ooh, that's an interesting line. Like, he just like calmly thrown in the fact that, Texas was down for a couple of years. He felt like he needed to point that out, I guess. So other than that, man, no, they've been pretty close to the vest for the most part.
Well, I mean, look, if I'm being honest, if anybody could talk in this rivalry, it's OU. I mean, if you look at over the past decade, they have run the table with not only this rivalry, but also this conference, the former conference in the Big 12. I mean, they just dominated. And so you're totally right. I mean, Venables is right. And when it comes to the sense of, yes, their measuring stick isn't just Texas, because they've been beating Texas for the last decade. If we're being honest, right? And if you're looking at the stats and we're looking at the records, they have been doing that. And so is that also playing a factor, knowing that, yes, every single year, it feels like Texas is opening up the gap, but within the last decade, OU has run the table with this rivalry.
Yeah, it's been crazy. Outside of the year that OU didn't have a quarterback who can complete a forward pass, they've kind of ran things, right. 2022 was a nightmare for OU. Other than that, you're right, man. They've found a way to win a good majority of it the past decade, and really since 2000 when Bob Stoops really started to take over. I mean, I know it's not quite as lopsided during that time, but you're right. The last decade, it's been pretty evident that OU's kind of handled the series. And I think from a local media perspective, like from our perspective, we see that. I think the national media, for the most part, is big on Texas, and when Texas is good, that's what matters right now, and that's fine because Texas is a big brand, a huge brand nationally, and so you kind of lose sight of the fact, like, hey man, just take a look at the series recently, and OU's done very well. So I think that there is call it a quiet confidence from the locker room in Norman, knowing that, man, just because Texas is number one in the country and playing really well, made the playoff last year, like we still have that confidence because we've been in this position before a lot lately and found ways to win the game.
Yeah, and that's what scares Texas fans.
Yeah,
I talked to a couple of Texas fans, and they're just like, "Look, it's a Red River rivalry, man. Anything could happen. We could be number one in the nation." But they bring up that year where Texas came in with Charlie Strong, and they were depleted. I think they finished 5-7 that year or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And they came in there, and y'all went to the college football playoff that year, and Texas beat them. And so it just, those years, these games, anything can happen. I think that's what scares Texas fans the most in this situation. And just before I let you go, TJ, though, I just want to talk to me about this Michael Hawkins Jr. kid, man. Like, what have you seen from him? What does he bring to the table? But also, like, being around him, what is his aura like? And how does he carry himself?
Man, Kobe McKenzie brought up a great point. The linebacker for OU said, like, whenever he first stepped on campus, talking about Michael Hawkins, like, dude didn't act like a freshman. His dad played in the NFL, so like he came from a professional football background, like he grew up in it, understands what it takes to be a professional, be a leader, and he's carried himself that way since day one. There was a bunch of insiders, guys who were able to watch practice throughout fall camp and spring ball. Like, Hawkins actually outperformed Jackson Arnold during camp. Like, that was kind of the rumor, the report that came out, and how true is that? I don't know, but they felt confident making him the starter now. So maybe there's some truth to it. I don't know, but dude just gets it. He's still a true freshman, so I mean he's going to miss some throws, he's going to miss some reads, but he's dynamic, man, with his legs. You actually put out a great soundbite from one of the Texas defensive players about pass lanes and respecting pass lanes and pass rush. Dylan Gabriel hit y'all on that a bunch last year, and that's been a focal point, it sounds like, at practice for Texas this year. And it's necessary because Michael Hawkins is dynamic and can run. And we saw it at the end of the Auburn game. Dude does have a cannon too. And so if he can build some confidence in the passing game early, his legs are just another weapon that he can use as well. So it'll be fun to watch him in an atmosphere like this.
Yeah, I think that was the biggest shocker just for me last year, just watching the game and shooting on the field. I'm just like, man, Dylan just keeps on taking off. Can someone keep a spy on this kid? Like, what is going on? And so, that's why I brought up the question in our press conferences, because like they got killed by Dylan with his legs, less than his arm. And so Hawkins, completely different animal. Completely different animal with his legs than Dylan. And so that's why I asked the question, because I mean he just brings a threat that I don't think Texas has seen this year. Maybe the kid from Mississippi State has somewhat similar, but I think Hawkins is a different breed when it comes to using his legs. And so I'm sure Venables and that offense, the offensive scheme, has some type of game plan set up to use Hawkins' legs a lot.
Man, they're going to have to, and because they've struggled running the ball all year, and so the best way to run the ball is letting the QB do it and letting the running back block for him. You add a hat in the run game. I would imagine you'll see quite a bit of the design QB run. And I again, to your point, that was a great question. I bet Texas is prepared for it as well.
Mm-hmm. And lastly, TJ, what do you think OU needs to get accomplished for them to have a shot of winning this game? You kind of spoke about on the offensive side of the ball, use Hawkins in the run game. But defensively, have you heard anything about, or what have they been saying to slow down this Texas offense? And where do you think, with your own knowledge, because like I said, you played college ball, what do you think needs to be accomplished for them to be successful against this Texas offense?
Yeah, I think the main thing for me is a similar blueprint to last year is get Ewers uncomfortable, right? They did a really good job getting pressure on him. I think they had 5 sacks in the game last year, forced a few turnovers as well. You have to do that. The front 7 really has been a strength for OU's defense so far this year. They've been getting a lot of pressure without having to blitz. And so if they're able to do that against Texas and get Ewers, not necessarily get sacks, but make him uncomfortable, get him off his spot a little bit, I think that's a good formula for success. Obviously, forcing turnovers is great. They're one of the top teams in the country at doing that this year. But if you can just continue to make him feel a little agitated or a little uneasy in the pocket, that's the first step, I think, in making this offense maybe get a little bit out of rhythm. And so that's what I would expect or hope to see from OU's defense is just continue to be aggressive and get a push up front and get some pressure on Ewers.
Yeah, that's going to be a battle in the trenches to look out for because center Jake Majors for Texas, who missed the game, nearly the entire game last year after getting hurt in the second drive. He was asked, is this like a Joe Moore Award type game that they can prove that they deserve to be the best offensive line in the country? And, their first test was against Michigan. Check that box. They passed. And now against OU, like you mentioned, they can get to the quarterback with just 4. They don't have to blitz a lot. And so I'm interested to see that battle with the experienced O-line of Texas and just the mastermind and the pressure schemes of Venables on the other side. Oh, man, that's going to be a great battle. But, TJ, thank you so much. Where can people follow your work? Where can people see your tweets and see all your reports? Yeah,
man, Cory. So I'm on X, I guess, Twitter, whatever. At TJ Eckert, KTUL is the Twitter handle. So be sure and drop a follow there. I'd appreciate that. Not big on Instagram, and I don't know if the kids don't have Facebook anymore, but we post on Facebook too. So if you want to look over there, you can do that.
Hey, it's funny how when you do that now, you may be dating yourself. If you say Facebook, you may be dating yourself. It's a wild west of social media that we're living in right now. But
we don't post on TikTok like you TikTokers out there. But you follow us on Twitter, man. We all over there.
Facts, bro. Facts. Well, thank you so much, TJ. Can't wait to see you on Saturday, bro. You getting a corn dog?
Man, Brent Venables doesn't know what the Fletcher Coney dog is. We're going to show him what that is. He said that at a teleconference. I know. Man, it's crazy. All he does is eat, sleep, breathe football. But I'll be there. I'll get me a corn dog with you, Cory.
Ketchup or mustard or both? How you do it?
Ketchup, man. That's the only way to go.
Okay, I knew I could trust you. Baby.
Yeah, man.
All right. Well, thank you, TJ, for your time, G.
Appreciate you, Cory.
Man, love chopping it up with TJ, dog. Now, if you saw me in that interview, I have a hat on because that was before I got my haircut today. So I had to hide the haircut. I had to hide it with the hat. So if you see me right now, you know what I'm saying? Your boy got the fresh fade. Your boy got you looking. I had to run some errands afterwards. You know how the boys do after you get their haircut. You gotta go get some errands. But anyways, it was cool talking to TJ. I really appreciate him for hopping on and to give us that insight. And to be honest, he's right. Like that Oklahoma defense will have to win the game for this team. I mean, it's clear that is the strength. And to be honest, they have a really good defense. Like I don't want to sit here and act like they don't. They do. They really do. And they can rush the passer with 4, which is such a commodity to have in college football because a lot of times you have to create pressure with blitz packages. And with this team, they don't. They don't have to. So will they have to against Texas? That's a question, especially with this offensive line, the way Texas has been playing. Really experienced offensive line, arguably the best offensive line in the country right now. May give them the Joe Moore Award if you ask me. But from right now, though, this is another game to prove themselves. Against that OU defense, TJ said it best. They think that this game will be on them. If they're going to win it, it's going to be on that defense. Can Texas offense with Quinn Ewers overcome that defense that they have? We'll see on Saturday. As for right now, though, thank y'all so much for joining us with this another episode, rendition, segment, conversation of Mo's Knows. I hope you join us again next week. Hopefully my boy Dion is back with us then. In the meantime, hope y'all have a blessed weekend. See y'all in Dallas.
We hope you enjoyed that episode. Stay up to date with Mo's Knows by subscribing to Cory Mose on YouTube or simply searching Mo's Knows on Spotify or Apple Music. Thanks for listening and have a great week.